chief here? Oh, yeah. Come on up. Anybody else? Come on, Greg. Okay. We ready? All right, good morning. Thank you for being here. Most of you know I'm Buddy Choat, the mayor here in Trussville. I have two council members here, Councilor Short, Councilor Bright, two of our police chiefs here, one of his captains here as well. I want to kind of address the situation that we were made aware of last week, the possibility of a threat at our high school. We, after gathering information yesterday and the end of last week, it was brought to our attention after the fact that the notebook was found last October. The principal at the high school admitted that he had the notebook and had it in a drawer. Nobody, and I want to emphasize, nobody knew about this except 3 people have been confirmed to know about it, possibly the 4th. But none of those included anybody at our central office, including our superintendent, any of the school board members, any of the city council members, anyone outside of the 3 people that were involved last October 2021 knew of this notebook. Fast forward to now. Yesterday, we were able to confirm some facts that we were unaware of after meeting with Mr. Salem, our high school principal, Dr. Neal, and one of our board members. It was made clear to us that the threat was reported by another student who went to a teacher who reported it to the counselor, who then went to Mr. Salem, and at that point we were called in from the city side to investigate. And let me assure you that once we started the investigation, the police department along with the SROs jumped into the operation mode of what they do. They went to the student's house, looked for any weapons that would be a possibility to be available for this threat. Found none except one handgun that belonged to the father. So after doing their due diligence and talking to the parents, they then went and presented the evidence in the case to the DA's office, who declined to decline to process or move forward with any case against this particular student. I want to make it clear that the city of Trussville has supported and will continue to support public safety as well as school safety as a #1 priority. We cannot do that without communication, and that's where this occurred. There was a total lack of communication between the high school principal and the city and his administration that led to this happening almost a year after this notebook had been discovered. We train hard, we pay a lot of money to have our SROs trained to protect our students. We're going to continue to do that. We expect to get the same respect from the schools, which we have gotten in the past, of accepting our willingness to help in any situation. But let me make it clear again, the only way that we can do our job and these guys can do what they're tasked to do is communicate with us and have a willingness to let us do the job that we're supposed to do. This is something that I'm going to insist as we meet. We have had several meetings every school year on school safety. We've even have active shooting training that some of our faculty have attended in the past. So everything was in place to handle this properly, but it was just a total lack of communication or an unwillingness and a judgment call that has been admitted to have been a mistake. In our meeting yesterday, as we talked through what happened, We asked for ownership of the problem, the situation that we're in. Mr. Salem took that responsibility personally. And I want to say that we cannot do anything more from our standpoint, from the city, as to what we did once we knew the facts. We have had several occasions to where the police and the SROs have solved a lot of instances once they knew about it, but this was such an important part of school safety that was mistakenly not handled correctly. And for that, I have to assure our citizens and our parents and our students and our administrators that we will continue to be there and be available. I don't think that we can emphasize any more than what we do today and moving forward, that we have to have an understanding of we're in this together. It is not us against them. We are there. We have spent hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars over the years to protect our students and our faculty, and we're going to continue to do that. There's no reason for this not to have been reported other than an error in judgment of, is it a real threat or is it a fantasy? I know there's fantasy games, fantasy things out there that kids are involved in. We know that, they know that, but we can only respond when we're told. So with that, I'll take a question, if anybody has any questions.
I do.
All right.
Erica Thomas, 1819 News. I am curious about the possible disciplinary actions that should be taken for the situation that happened. We could be looking at 37 names of dead children and not just a fantasy list, as some call it. Is there gonna be any type of disciplinary action or legal action?
Well, I would defer that to the school board, who is doing what we're doing. They're doing their work, their due diligence. That'll be a personnel matter that they will deal with. Our responsibility to the schools are to appoint our board members. We have confidence in them. They're fully aware that a mistake was made, and whatever they determine necessary, we will live by. Yes,
Kyra
ma'am.
Purvis, ABC 3340.
Good morning.
So, we said that we trust the board, but why did the city feel the need to have this press conference today and address this issue if it is a school board issue?
Right. Well, I felt like it was important for our citizens to understand that even though it is a school board issue, that we're in it with them. And I wanted to say that immediately, and this is important, this is part of the reason for the meeting today. Immediately after we were notified, the plan of action occurred in less than 24 hours. Everything had been brought to the forefront by that, and I think that's important for our parents to know, that if we are notified, how quickly these things can be resolved. So yes, it is a school board matter, but they're part of us and we're part of them, and we want to be in this together. Yes, sir.
David Lamb, CBS 42. Can you help me with the timeline? Because it sounded like the incident happened in October of last year.
Correct.
Can you help us with, when were you all notified in that investigation? Kind of fill in that timeline if you
Sure.
can.
So the notebook was discovered last October, 2021. And then Friday, last Friday, Friday week, I guess it was. The 6th, we were notified that this threat had been made. A student reported it, that this particular student had admittedly offered at least 30 different times a threat to do harm at the school. And so from there, then the SROs and chief were called in, started the investigation on Monday morning. And by Wednesday, everything had been resolved. The DA had been presented the case. And so the timeline was really in such a short period for us to do our job, but what really hurts the whole process is the 1 year between. We dodged a bullet. I don't mean that in a threat. We dodged a situation that we don't need to have this meeting today had it been handled properly.
Bill Castle, ABC
Bill.
3340. We have tried to get in touch with the school board, no response. you said y'all are in this together. Why is there not a representative from the school board here this morning?
Well, there was a school board, member here earlier. I visited, and the school board member was at our meeting yesterday, as I mentioned before. Dr. Neal, had a release, yesterday. She offered to be here this morning, as well as one of the school board members was here. I just felt like that this was a city meeting, and I felt like, and to your point, that they would be put on the spot with things that they really couldn't answer as far as what their discipline action is gonna be or whatever. So this is really about what we did as a city and how we move forward with investigations of any kind of threat to our schools.
Can I, Trussville Tribune,
Yeah.
do you have any reason to believe that there have been any other incidents at the schools where law enforcement wasn't notified and should have been?
I'm not aware of any, and Chief, I don't know if there's been any to my knowledge, so I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Magdalene with Channel 13. If I can get the police chief to come in on this one, based off of your investigation, what you found, given that it is a fantasy book from what we've heard from the department and the school as well, is there any inclination that this student might be a problem in the future?
Well, yeah, it can. And you have that possibility with any student, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a possibility for that.
Is that something the department is keeping their eye on? I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, it will always be there, yeah, it'll be a situation from this point forward.
and my follow-up question would just be for those of you who probably have children at this school, and given, what's been going on across the country and things like that, how do you all feel as parents knowing that there is a situation like this and it's happening here in the city?
Not good at all.
I don't have children there. I think Chief has a daughter at the school, and I can say, after speaking to several parents on this, the concern is at a high level right now, of concern about this, a possibility even happening in Trussville. We've always said that we're not the exception. It could happen here. Fortunately for us, nothing has, but to your point, those of us, and we have school board members and we have other people on the board and affiliated with the city that have students there, and it really caused a great deal of concern on their part, particularly when they really didn't know the facts behind the whole case. So, Scott?
Mayor, you said the investigation indicated only 4 people knew about the notebook. Did the Trussville police conduct that investigation, and if so, how did they pull that?
Well, the information that we gathered yesterday after meeting with Mr. Salem and Dr. Neal, we asked that question, who knew about this notebook? And he admitted that 3 people for sure, a teacher, a counselor, and himself. A 4th person was mentioned, but we didn't find out if that was accurate or not. So we know of 3 for sure that knew about the
Have
notebook.
emails been checked to see if there was any discussion among school employees?
I haven't checked it.
Speaking on behalf of concerned parents, I don't know if you're taking a look on social media, but a lot of people are saying they don't trust the school board anymore. What is your statement to those concerned parents, and does the city plan to play a role in rebuilding that trust between the board and the parents?
Yeah, well, I certainly understand. The reaction has been overwhelmingly of concern. The school board, like I said, they were not aware of this situation until we were. And now I think the school board's actions moving forward will have to make the parents feel that they are doing the right thing. I'm sure they will. But until that is done, there's always going to be that perception that nothing is being done. But I can assure you that there are things being done as we speak now.
And what about situations before this? I mean, what I've been told is there has been multiple issues with the school board, the school system, distrust. Have you noticed that? Have you been contacted by residents even prior to this issue about that?
Well, we've had some issues come before, nothing this serious, obviously, but some things where there was a disagreement, they couldn't get an answer, not necessarily from this particular board, but in the boards in the past, just an unwillingness to share some information. We've had that conversation with Dr. Neal, about how we as a council, we sit up here twice a month and we take questions. We try to answer them, and we always felt like that it would be best if they give some kind of response. And I think they've tried some of those, sometimes they have not, but there's not a cover up that I'm aware of that has happened. There has been some discussions, but no such withholding evidence or conversation.
Rebecca Griesbach, AL.com. Is there gonna be any disciplinary action taken against the staff members who are involved in this?
Well, I think that question was asked. I think that'll be a board decision. Their decision handles personnel. That's what they're charged with. And so, as I said, I think they're still gathering as much information as they can before they make any kind of decision.
Do you know if the
Yes,
board?
sir.
Mayor, what have you learned from all this, and if any, what changes need to occur moving forward?
Yeah, what I learned from this, as I said before, we have to have better communication. And I think that's what we have learned, is we talk about it, we support in every way we can, our schools through safety or whatever it is. What I have learned is we can't let someone make a judgment call on something like this when it's very obvious that needs to be turned over to the people that are experts. And hopefully, and like I said, we're gonna insist that kind of information never be withheld because someone thinks it's more of a fantasy than a reality.
I have a question about that. This wasn't necessarily classified as a terroristic threat, correct? Is that what I understand?
How do you classify it?
And why is that? What does it take?
It takes, the law is written kind of vague. It takes disruption of school. So if they cancel school or evacuated the school, then it would have been considered a terroristic threat. But I can't speak on behalf of the district attorney's office, obviously, but they did decline. They said it didn't fit the criteria.
What do you think needs to happen in regards to Alabama law to make something like this stick?
I think there needs to be because the terroristic threat is a felony. I think there needs to be like a Class A misdemeanor that would fit this case. Because my understanding from the DA's office, this is happening more and more, where there's written threats and they're just not able to prosecute with it because it doesn't fit the case or it doesn't fit the criteria.
Chief, remember the Beards meeting?
Hold on just a minute, Scott. Let me get Jesse first. He had his hand up.
I have a question. I'm Jesse O'Dell with Trussville City School Parents Staying Informed, and what I want to know is, you just said we haven't had any other security issues. Did you know anything about when people were using our basketball gym after hours and there was a gun incident?
I was aware of
Remember that?
I was.
Okay, so you would say we have had other security incidents then, right?
Well, I think what I was referring to is recently at a school, that was in the gym over a practice session. I was made aware of that.
But it wasn't our students or our Parks and Recreation.
Not that I remember. I don't think it was. I think there were outsiders in there that were practicing.
With that
Is
going-
that the case you're talking about?
That's it.
Yeah.
With that going, you keep referring us back to our BOE that doesn't answer our questions or respond.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what they responded to.
That doesn't trouble you, that they're not responding?
As I mentioned before, we always try to respond, and we've encouraged them to respond.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't give the answer that people want, and sometimes they do. So I still encourage them to respond to those kind of threats. Scott, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Chief, during the Beards meeting, mention was made of possibility, and I got two questions. The possibility that the student involved may have had issues as a middle school student. Have you been able to investigate that, and has the school cooperated in helping you determine that?
I'm gonna work on that some more as soon as this is over, so I'm still looking into that, so I don't have anything really to release about that yet, so, cause I don't know. So.
Can you clarify the number of names that was on that list, because I was seeing discrepancies in different reports?
There were 37 fellow classmates, and then there were 3 celebrities on the list, so there was a total of 40.
Chief, overall, has this been a frustrating experience for you?
Very, very frustrating. It's, school safety is a top priority for me, and if we don't know stuff's going on, then it makes it real hard to keep that the top priority, because we just don't know about it. So we can only do and respond to things that we're made aware of. And so, yeah, I've been frustrated for over a week. It's been a long week and a half.
Is there a plan to protect the student when he comes back to class after his alternative school?
I think the administrators do have some type of plan that they're working on.
Mayor.
Christy Jones, parent. One of the biggest concerns I've had in this whole situation is still to this moment, we have received as parents and students, zero communication from our superintendent, school board, or schools about this. And that is incredibly concerning. It's been disruptive to learning. The students spent most of the day yesterday texting their parents, asking if rumors were true. And it's been very disruptive. At what point are we gonna get communication and reassurances from our school board and superintendent that everything is okay and we are safe and all that? Because
Right.
the non-communication has created a lot of unnecessary panic.
Sure, and I think the statement that Dr. Neal released last night addressed some of that, Christy, as far as the safety of the schools. And again, I think as we talked yesterday, and I spoke to one of the school board members a while ago, they are still working on the whole situation. But her statement yesterday, and I think Scott even mentioned it yesterday, is our kids are safe. We feel like they're safe. We feel like that we're not. There was rumors going out yesterday that there was a military presence at the high school, and what it was, from what I understand, it was one of those days where they come in and do a little recruiting, and of course the uncertainty of knowing what has really happened, and a lot of people are just now catching up on it as far as the facts that we just presented now and what Dr. Neal said. So hopefully a lot of that will be brought out very soon.
We really as parents shouldn't expect to have communication directed to us in the form of school emails, newsletters. Like, we received a text message, all of us this morning, that a train was blocking Camp Coleman, there wouldn't be bus pickup. Should we not expect at this point in this situation with this much panic and chaos to have received some form of communication to say, hey, we're on this, your kids are safe, they are okay at school today?
Right. I could expect the same if I was a parent, so I'll leave that up to them. Gary?
You mentioned, you're coming at this from a city perspective, and I appreciate that, I understand that. I got the statement from Dr. Neal too. Do you think though that she should be here, standing with y'all?
No, she offered yesterday to do a joint conference. I felt like it was better that they have their conference. They take responsibility for what they're gonna do and how they wanna do it. I wanted to be separate in case there's question of where the city stands in this issue. So it was really my suggestion yesterday that we do separate interviews.
Okay.
Would you have any idea when that conference might be, if they do hold one?
What
The
conference?
Board of Education?
When they're gonna hold one?
Yeah, if they are and when.
I don't know.
I have a question for Councilor Bright.
A lot of questions.
You, as the, do what?
You got a lot of
I
questions.
So-
We know her, by the way.
As the liaison to the school board, have you been in communication with the school board members and the superintendent? And do you feel that they are grasping the gravity around all this?
You're addressing that to me? Okay. Yes, I have been. I have reached out to school board president Kathy Brown, had conversations with her. Like the mayor said, we had a meeting yesterday with Dr. Neal and Tim Salem to discuss the whole timeline and everything that has taken place. So yes, I have. We have had communication and feel like they are working on their end. It's always never as quick as we want it to happen, and parents want answers, and I get that, and I'm sure that they're working on it. But as the mayor said, we wanted to keep these press conferences separate. We support the schools and our police, but we also have to present our plan, what we plan on doing moving forward.
One constant complaint from residents and parents is that you cannot directly contact Board of Education members. I've been having this issue for years as well. Has there been any discussion in these board meetings on how they might have their own separate email addresses that they are a part of? or, cause there's only one main one, and I've had a situation where I've emailed that and then asked the board members if they got my email, and they said no. So the superintendent got it, but not the board members who I thought I was emailing. Is there any discussion on fixing that situation?
Not in board meetings, no.
I've got a question, was Councilman Short? Councilman Short, you put out a statement yesterday as well. You are law enforcement, career law enforcement, you're a parent and you're a city councilman. From your perspective, what would you like to see going forward between the city, the police department, and the school board?
I think the mayor said it best. I mean, improving our communication, I think, is key here. Ensuring that our law enforcement are made aware of the situations as they arise is paramount. And the mayor in his official statement in the city's position, accessibility and communication, and that's really where this broke down, in my opinion, and that's where we're going to improve. So.
Has there been an ongoing problem with communications between the police department and the school board?
I would have to give that to Chief Rush or the mayor. I don't know.
Okay. Chief, can you address that?
There has been issues in the past, nothing this major, nothing this big. Usually small things. So, you know, we created a memorandum of understanding in 2020 that basically spells out, it's a guideline document that spells out the interaction between the SROs and the school.
The mayor just addressed safety issues or safety at the school currently. When I drove through yesterday, it appeared to be an increased police presence. Can you share what the police department has done since this incident came up in terms of police presence at the schools to put parents at ease a little bit?
Well, there's a lot of rumors that go around on social media, so yeah, there was an increased presence there yesterday morning just to kind of calm some fears, but there was no danger there. The student in question he was at the ALC all day, and that was verified all day.
Thank you.
Rebecca Griesbach again. I know you can't release names or anything like that, but was there any inclination, looking at the names of the students, that this might be more than a terroristic threat and might also be kind of like a hate crime or something like that? Was there any patterns with the students that were targeted that might indicate something along those lines?
Wasn't a pattern. I mean, some of them were athletes. He was an athlete, so it just seemed kind of random, really.
Okay.
I don't know of any past issues that he'd had with any of the other students, so I can't really say.
Chief, you mentioned that memorandum of understanding from 2020, and I understand it is just like a guideline between city and schools, but how do you, that thing being there, how do you strengthen that when something like this happens?
Well, you know, it's really just a document that was supposed to be adhered to, and I think as far as there's no repercussions for violating it. I think violating it, I think the violation in itself is bad enough because, you know, it was there and it was known to all.
Are there any repercussions for violating?
Hold on, this gentleman's ahead.
A question for you, Chief Russ, Michael Cook, concerned parent. As long as we're on the subject of the memorandum of understanding, there's a story from 2020 when it was enacted in the Trussville Tribune, where you state that there was language added to it after your approval that in essence required your department to obtain the permission of TCS before publishing anything that happened at the school, and you declined to sign it until that language was removed. Do we know who added that language and why that was put in there?
To this day, I don't know when that was added, but that is accurate. That did happen.